record now. So that way anyone can view it later who wasn't able to join. So hi, my name is Allison Grandel. I'm the Administrative Assistant for CURCA. And welcome today to CURCA Travel Grants Application Workshop. And we have our grad assistant, Hannah.
Hey everybody, my name's Hannah.
She's here helping us and sharing some of the questions and everything else that you might have. She was an undergraduate at UNG as well, and she actually applied to this before 2 years ago, I believe.
Yeah.
So toward the end and everything, if we have some time, she might be sharing a few tips here and there, showing the info already. So again, this is the CURCA Travel Grants Workshop, and this is for the fall cycle. So for students who plan to attend conferences scheduled before February 1st, 2022.
All right, you guys. So I want to start with where you guys are going to even find the information to apply. So you are going to want to go to our CURCA website at UNG. The easiest way I found to find it is to go and just search UNG CURCA, and it'll take you to it right away. And then you're going to go to for students and then click the fall/spring travel grants. So then once you're in there, there's going to be a button at the bottom to apply for conference/travel grant. All of the information, the rubric and the FRP are going to be on this page as well for you to download. FRP stands for Request for Proposals, by the way. But once you click the Apply for Conference/Travel Grant, it's going to take you into Info Ready. And once you're in Info Ready, you're going to want to make sure that you click the 2021 Fall CURCA Student Travel Grants. There's like 3 listed, but that one is actually the top one. And that is the, I guess, season that we're in right now. So that's what you're going to want to click. And so you know the deadline is actually going to be September 17th. So we're coming up on it. You've got about 10 days to get that in. So just keep that in mind as we're going through this.
Okay, now the items required for submission, there are several of them. And the first one is the cover letter. So we are looking for 2 pages max, exclusive of the budget. And we'll talk a little bit more about the budget later. And you want to use standard font size, standard margins. And as you're writing it, really keep in mind the audience that you're writing it for. Now, the reviewers will be from multidisciplines. That will be looking at your application. So make sure you're writing it for a general audience. And also make sure, once you've written it out, to double check for any kind of spelling errors or grammar mistakes to make sure it's coherent and concise as possible, that there isn't too much information, but detailed enough that anyone could read it and understand, and specifics, of course. So the information we're looking for in the cover letter is a description of the conference itself. So where is the conference? What is the title, of course? When is it going to be? And if it's a regional conference, if it's national, if it's only for undergraduate, professional, etc. We're also looking for information on the student's specific role. So are you the primary author? Are you in a group and you are a collaborator? Were you sharing equal work, or were you, or what your role was in this research that you're doing and presenting? And then just briefly mention as well that whether this is a poster or oral presentation that you're looking to present at the conference, please also include information on how the conference connects to your long-term professional and career goals. And all of this is mentioned in the rubric, which we'll talk about in a second, but really focus a lot on the last one. We want to make sure and really do some thinking. And I would say try to do at least a paragraph on the last one, especially to think about how this will help you professionally and academically by presenting your conference in a professional manner. And then finally, in the cover letter, we're looking for a brief budget overview, which gives evidence to the travel, the lodging, the registration, and we'll go over that a little bit more in detail. Then as always, refer to the rubric to make sure everything is mentioned in your cover letter, which we'll cover in a second. So, and I wanted to specifically mention if you're working in a group, because we have quite a few applicants that are either the primary author or they're working equally, that every student needs to apply individually. It's fine for the student to submit the same abstract, that if you're working in a group, because obviously that's the same abstract your group submitted to the conference, and it's okay to submit the same proof of acceptance, but your cover letter must be the student's own individual work. It must be yours. We're not looking for carbon copies, because obviously what you would be getting out of the conference would be different than your equally collaborating fellow researcher would be. And also please note that if there are equally collaborating students with no primary author, then each person should make a strong case in their cover letter why the separate teams should be funded together. And we can't make promises, unfortunately, that we could fund the whole team. It all depends on if the budget's healthy for that year or not. But we do try to look very detailed at the cover letters and to see the reasons behind it and everyone's individual work. The next other required items you'd need to submit on InfoReady is the original submitted abstract that you submitted to the conference itself. For creative works, please just submit a letter of submission or how the review process was in lieu of an abstract. So for instance, if the committee for the conference asked for an audition tape or a piece of art, for instance, just write a letter, write a note saying that's what you submitted in lieu of one. This other one is proof of acceptance. So usually like a screenshot of you've been accepted into this conference, but we also understand that at this time you might not have been accepted. So we would accept a statement of when you're hoping to be accepted into the conference in lieu of that. And then lastly, we need a copy of the student travel authorization form. This form can be found in the InfoReady competition under completed files, which I believe is on the right side if you're on a desktop. We have it listed, it's a blank one, but if you're having trouble finding it, you can always email CURCA at ung.edu and we'll be able to send you a blank one that you could fill out. And one important thing we want to notice that we know you're uploading the copy, but we need to have the original, and we are asking for the original that's signed in ink to be dropped off to our CURCA office, either on the Lanaga campus, which is Price 102, or in the administration building in Gainesville, which is administration 111. We want that by 3 p.m. on the closing date of the competition, which is September 17th. And if you're on other campuses, you can intercampus mail them to us as well. If you have any questions, again, you can email CURCA at ung.edu. And please note that that copies are just not accepted. We need to have your original signature. Okay, so the rubric, this is what the reviewers will be using. And you can see the 5 categories on the left here of what they'll be reading through your cover letter and judging on. And we want all these 5 categories detailed in and mentioned in your cover letter. And you can notice on the top as well that there's a range of points. So you have flexibility here. So the first category is impact of presentation. So it's judging on whether you're in a state or a regional or an international venue. Then you have student participation. So they're going to be looking at, are you an equally collaborating author in a group? Are you the sole individual author? What was your role? The next one is the type of conference. So are you presenting at a conference that's for professionals? Are you presenting at a conference that are just undergrads only? Please mention that. And a lot of the times, if you're wondering, where you can find this information, the conference website itself should list what type of conference it is and who will be presenting at this conference. And most of the time you can find that information there if you're wondering. The next one is your academic and professional development. And that's what I mentioned in the previous 2 slides. They really want to see how this will benefit you, what you'll be learning from this, how this will benefit you professionally. And so again, as you can see, it's weighted the heaviest out of everything else. On the far right, you see it's multiplied by 2. So really do some free writing here if you're kind of stuck and don't really know what to say, and really do some free writing and then work on that and really think of really good details of how presenting will help you in the future. And then lastly, it's the budget, and make sure the budget is clearly explained and appropriate, and that there's evidence provided for the proposed charges. And we'll go in a little more detail about how to estimate the budget in a second. So again, for the academic professional development, how does your attendance benefit you in UG? Some questions to consider. How does attending the conference help you grow? So take a few minutes to contemplate that and how your future might be impacted. And then here is the student travel authorization form. It's a little bit longer than this. This is how much I could fit into the PowerPoint. But keep in mind the itemized estimate of costs. This form is supposed to be an estimate only, and don't underestimate the cost. It's better to go over than it is to go under. And again, as we mentioned before, you must submit the original form with handwritten signature and ink to our offices by 3 p.m. So it must include also detail the purpose of the trip and how the student travel will benefit UNG. So have a little line in there at the end explaining the conference, where the conference is. Again, this is stuff that you're writing in your cover letter, and then end it with how your presentation will benefit UNG. And what I find really helpful is to look at the UNG's mission statement. I believe there's something that UNG creates a culture of research and creativity. So you can even use a quote from there to kind of end your description in the student authorization travel form. That would be very helpful. And the last thing is funding from multiple sources. So if you're receiving funding from another department or multiple departments, then a representative of that department will have to sign the form as well as yourself, and we'll deliver everything to the business office. But that's something that you should also mention in the budget breakdown if you're receiving funding from anywhere else. And you can always email, again, CURCA@ung.edu, and I'll help you kind of navigate and work that out. And lastly, the budget breakdown. So this is kind of what we're looking for to include at the end of the cover letter. And so you can see it's broken down into registration, lodging, meals, transportation, and then a total, and kind of going over a total of what you're requesting. So this includes all of your expenses, even if they go over 500. Now 500 is the max that you can receive, but again, it's better to overestimate than underestimate. Please note that we can only reimburse registration. We can't reimburse personal memberships. A lot of the times these conferences will have personal memberships that if you get a personal membership along with registration, it brings down the cost. Please don't do that because state funds does not allow for us to reimburse the personal memberships. Also keep in mind when you're lodging or setting up a hotel, Airbnb is not reimbursable by UNG. We are not allowed to do that. So please make sure, and you can always, again, email if you have any questions. And meals, we only use per diem rates, and I'll explain that in a second. Secondly, transportation, if you're carpooling, if not, include mileage or expected cost of a rental car if you are renting a car or if you will be driving your car to the conference. And then, of course, end it with the total and the summary. So here is the per diem. So we have in-state per diem and out-of-state per diem. So if you are going to be, presenting a conference at GURC, for example, which will be in-state, you would be using the per diem daily rates. Now there's 3 things you need to keep in mind. That there's the daily rate, which you can see the regular for in-state is 28, and then there's the first and last day of travel. So the first and last day of travel is 75% of the daily rate. So depending on how long the conference is, how long you'd be traveling for, it gets a little confusing sometimes. But for out of state, we want you to use the U.S. General Services Administration per diem website. And I can always send you the link later, but you can also Google that and that should come up. And what you do is you put the year, you put the conference city and state where the conference will be held, and it should give you a breakdown of the meals and incidentals. So the example we have right here is Sarah's going to St. Louis, Missouri. She goes to the U.S. General Admin per diem website. She enters the year she's attending, the conference city and state, and where the conference obviously is being held. She scrolls down to the section, and we have a screenshot right here. So her meals and incident total is 64, and then she subtracts $5 for her incidental. So that means her daily rate is 59. And that's her daily rate that she's there, but her first and last day of travel is 48. So if she stays 3 days, she's traveling on the first day, she'll be there all day the second day, and she's leaving on the third day. So that means that she would be estimating 48 for her first day. She'll be estimating the daily rate, which would be 59 for her second day, and the last day, which will be her last day of travel, she'd also be estimating 48. One other thing to keep in mind, if you are being provided a meal at the conference and it's included in your registration cost, then you must submit that meal cost from your total as well. So please keep that in mind when you're estimating. Okay, and then more budget guidelines and tips. So after winning the grant, You'll receive an email from CURCA@ung.edu and detailing all this. But before the conference, so you must meet with me at the CURCA office. You can either meet in person, we can set up a virtual meeting if you have questions, and go over your travel documentation before your departure, making sure I have everything and have everything you're ready to go. So you can either email CURCA@ung.edu, or you can email my personal email address, which is allison.grandel@ung.edu. Or you can meet with me, like I said, at Price Memorial 102A in Dahlonega. You can email me beforehand to set up a time to meet, or we can meet via Teams or Zoom virtually if you prefer that. And so I can go and clarify details of your budgetary specifics and transportation options, and I'll help you also verify your per diem rates as well. So keeping in mind also to keep your receipts, retain all of your receipts except for food. Because again, you're just doing a per diem rate for food, so no need to keep receipts for that. Please especially keep any parking or any Uber or Lyft receipts. These will actually go into the other section rather than transportation. And for hotels and flights, if you're paying for them yourself and then we'll be reimbursing you, there must be a zero balance on the receipt, and it also needs to show the last 4 digits of the credit card used and your name in order to reimburse you. If you're staying at a hotel, you can always request a hotel folio when you check out, and it should have all those items I specified. And again, please be aware, UNG cannot reimburse Airbnb lodgings per state law. And if you can, share room and carpool. It will bring your costs down for everyone, but please be advised that CURCA can only reimburse travel grant awardees. And then after the conference, in most cases, you'll be reimbursed after the conference. And the sooner you process the paperwork, the sooner you'll be reimbursed. So within two weeks of the presentation of the conference, scan a copy of the conference program, including the cover page, full dates of the conference, schedule, and where you're listed as a presenter, you know, the title. If you drove, take a screenshot of the route to and from the conference in Google Maps, your starting destination and your ending destination. And then of course, again, turn in all receipts. We need all original receipts. For Uber, Lyft, we understand you're not going to get a paper receipt, so you can use a screenshot within the app. Or there might be just a receipt section in the app, depending. And travel tips, renting a car, you can take, if you do decide to rent a car, travel tip is to take pictures of your rental car before you leave the rental company, just in case there's any little dings or nicks, and note any pre-existing damages. And have the company associate take pictures of them too, so that they can keep it on record. And then I'll hand it over to Hannah for the frequently asked questions.
Alrighty, so these are some of our most frequently asked questions that we get every year. So the first one is going to be, can I apply for a conference or travel grant if I have already graduated? So the answer to that is no. We only do grants for undergraduates. And then there's a separate pool of money that goes towards grad students. And we meant to look up the graduate email, but there is an email for grad students that will be available to you guys.
Yeah, you can always email us and we'll connect you.
Exactly. So do you receive $500 if you win? So $500 is the most you can receive. Not everyone will receive 500. It depends on the year and our budget, but they vary depending on how much we have and then what you need for your travel. Should I estimate on the lower end for my cost? Do not do this. Definitely put what you are actually going to spend. Even if that's way over 500, we can at least help you as much as we can, but definitely give us your most accurate estimate. Will requesting above 500 disqualify me or hurt my chances? As I just said, absolutely not. So how do I know if my conference is local, state, regional, or national? That is something that you can most likely find on the website of the conference that you're going to, or you can ask your faculty advisor or email the conference themselves and you can find out this information. But what if I haven't been accepted yet to my conference? You can submit a statement through InfoReady when you go in there. you, instead of submitting like your acceptance letter, you will submit a statement saying when you expect to get acceptance from the conference. So can I submit more than one application for conference and travel grants? Yes, you can submit a maximum of 2, but I will say that you are only still allotted $500 within those 2 applications total, if that makes sense, but yes. So as a review, you are going to apply on InfoReady via the CURCA website through that apply button, and then have your cover letter, your submitted abstract, or if you're doing an artistic submission or a letter describing the application process, have proof of acceptance or a projected date for notification, a copy of the student and a copy of the student travel authorization form. And keep in mind with this one is the original student authorization form with signatures needs to be dropped off at our office in 102A no later in Price Memorial, no later than 3 p.m. on Friday, September 17th. And then you can send any other questions that you might have to the CURCA at ung.edu if you come up with any questions after today.
Or if you're on Gainesville, you can submit the original student authorization form. I think it's to administration 111 in Gainesville, but you can always email us just to double check where to go as well. So thank you. I appreciate you. Do you have any questions?
Hi, thank you guys for having this. I'm excited to submit our grant. I'm gonna be, we're putting the plans together for the conference. It's actually in October. And my professor is going to drive down separately to me. I'm gonna drive down a day early, so Jekyll Island, Georgia. So I was just gonna drive down a day early. So for because I wanna be there, her schedule kind of dictates, when she can leave. So I wanna be there all day on Friday, be there when it starts, everything like that. So am I eligible to do would I apply for my travel on Thursday, there Friday and Saturday, travel Sunday, or do I need to do the same schedule my professor's doing?
I think that's whenever you leave. So your first day of travel is going to be, I guess you said either that Thursday or the Friday that you're leaving. So
I think I'm gonna leave Thursday.
Okay, so if you're gonna leave Thursday, so that would be your first day of travel. So when you're doing the estimations, especially the per diem, you would use the first day of travel rate, for instance, to see what that is, and that's 75%. And then I'm assuming you're gonna stay until Sunday or Monday, or?
Sunday. We'll be coming back. The conference ends on Sunday, so I'll be driving home Sunday.
Sunday, okay, so that would be your last day of travel. So your first day would be Thursday, you're heading down there, and then your last day will be that Sunday and everything. And again, we would like to, provide as much funding as possible, but having those specifics and even mentioning like the time you'll be leaving would be good as well. To just
Okay. All right, great. And the submitted abstract, you said that it needs to be the abstract that we send to the conference?
Yes.
Is that what you want to see? Okay. So the cover letter is to you guys.
Yeah. So,
and then
sorry.
So the cover letter will be what I'm asking CURCA, and then in kind of a brief description for a multidisciplined audience, and then you want the actual abstract that I'm submitting to the conference as well.
Yeah. So like on question 2 right here. So the cover letter, that's what you're going to be talking about, where the conference is, what is the conference, all those details like I mentioned, your role in this research, and even mention your mentor's role as well. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but mentioning your mentor too as well, and your mentor's role in the cover letter, as well as your professional academic development, all those things you mentioned in the rubric, and then include the budget breakdown. That's in the cover letter. And then the submitted abstract that you submitted to the conference, attach that to. There'll be separate places in the InfoReady application that you'll be submitting all these individual details, right, Hannah? You went and did a kind of test run today?
Yeah. So it'll have like submission sections where you select like a document off of your computer. So
Okay,
it's like
pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it should be those four
Okay.
things. So your cover letter, the submitted abstract, the proof of acceptance from the conference. And most of the time, a lot of people just submit a screenshot because most people get like an email for that one.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure if you can upload a JPEG. So you might have to maybe copy and paste it on a Word document or make it into a PDF and then upload it.
Okay.
But a screenshot of the acceptance, I mean, if, or what have you, and then the copy of the student travel authorization form. So those four things.
Okay. Okay, great. So this is I'll be the presenter and the author of this for this conference, but it was a cumulative effort of my research team over the past year. We got awarded a grant last year under my research partner, and then we did the research all year. So now she's moved on. She's not on the team anymore, but I'm presenting at the same conference this year. Do you need to know that information since she's not traveling?
Yeah, I would just mention your role, especially
Okay.
if how you individually contributed to the research, and if you were equally
Okay.
contributing at the time to this your fellow student along with your fellow student, or
Okay.
if you were the one that was primarily contributing, and you can mention that you are going to be the sole presenter, but that your role in how you got this research. Does that make sense?
Okay. It does. Yeah.
And you are an undergraduate too, correct? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
just making sure.
Yes. So yeah, this is my second go. I was in the arts the first time and I'm in science this time. So, I don't know.
It's so funny being in this office. You see so many overlaps between disciplines and everything,
Yeah.
and even how research is between even like maybe something that's a hard science, maybe something that's more humanity. But it'd be it's so interesting to see the similar connections,
Yeah, I bet. You guys get to see it all, huh?
Oh yeah, no, it's fun. It's great.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So,
Okay. Well, I mean, you guys laid it out really easily to understand. Those are really the only questions I had. This is kind of my, I'm still getting my feet wet with grant writing, so I'm just trying to get everyone is a little bit different, so.
everyone wants different things, and sometimes there's small nuances. And if you have any questions, anything else pops up and you're in the middle of writing, just send us a email and everything else. And
Okay.
kind of, if you want the slides afterwards, I'll be more than happy to email it to you, or you can go onto the InfoReady site from our website. And what Hannah was mentioning, the RFP, which is the request for proposals, it lists all that information out about what we're looking in the cover letter, and the rubric is there too as well.
Okay. I'll start there, and then if I have any questions or if I feel like I need to look at the PowerPoint again, I can just shoot you an email if that's okay.
Yeah, no, of course. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
You have a great day.
All right. You too.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Cool.